What you do has to be done because of how you'll feel about you, the way you did it last night with your folks." His voice was rueful. "There were no other rewards, if only because no matter what you do, no one will ever think the things about you that you want them to think. Not even the powers." "Right," Nita said again. They let go of each other. Carl turned and walked away quickly. The air slammed itself shut behind him, and he was gone. Nita walked back to the house. She kept her goodbyes brief. "We may be back tonight," she said to her mother and father as they stood together on the beach. "Or we may not. Sri says it'll depend on how much of the rehearsal we get finished." "Rehearsal?" Her mother looked at her curiously. "Uh-huh. It's like I told you," Kit said. "Everyone who sings has his own part, but there's some ensemble singing, and it has to be done right." "Kit, we're late," Nita said. "Mom," she grabbed her mother and hugged her hard. "Don't worry if we don't come back tonight, Mom, please," she said. "We may just go straight into the song, and that's a day and a half by itself. Look for us Monday morning." "Us," her mind screamed, but she ignored it. "Dad." She turned to him, hugged him too, and saw out of the corner of her eye her mother hugging Kit. Nita glanced up and down the beach. "It's all clear, Kit," she said. She shrugged out of the towel wrapped around her, leaving it with her mother, then sprinted for the water. A few fast hops over several breakers, and there was depth enough to dive and stroke out to 20-foot water. Nita leaped into the whale shape as if it were an escape, rather than a trap from which she might never return. Once a humpback, she felt normal again, and felt a twinge of nervousness. There was something Sri had warned her about that. No matter. Nita surfaced and blew goodbye at her mother and father, then turned for Kit, who was treading water beside her, to take her dorsal fin and be towed out to depth. Out in the 50-foot water, Kit wrapped the whale sark about him and made the change with a swiftness that was almost savage. The sperm whale that appeared in his place had a bitter, angry look to its movements when it began to swim away from shore. "Kit," Nita said as they went, "you okay?" It was some time before he answered. "No," he said. "Why should I be? When you're going to—" He didn't finish the sentence. "Kit, look." "No, you look. Don't you see that there's nothing I can do about all this? And I don't like it." His song was another of the scraping sperm whale battle cries, soft but very heartfelt, and the rage in it chattered right down Nita's skin like nails down a blackboard. "There's not much I can do about it myself," she said, "and I don't like it either. Let's not talk about it for now, please. My brain still hurts enough from last night." "Neats," he said. "We've got to talk about it sometime. Tomorrow's it." "Fine. Before tomorrow. Meanwhile, we've got today to worry about. Are we even going the right way?" He laughed at her then, a painful sound. "Boy, are you preoccupied," Kit said. "Clean your ears out and listen." She stopped everything but the ticks and clicks a humpback uses to find its way, and listened, and was tempted to laugh herself. The sea had a racket hidden in it. From the southwest was coming an insane assortment of long, odd, wild sounds, sweet, high flutings that cut sharply through the intervening distance, clear horn calls as if someone hunted under the waves, outer spacey whistles and warbles like the electronic cries of orbiting satellites, deep bass scrapes and rumbles, lawnmower buzzes and half-tone moans and soulful sighs. And many of those sounds, sooner or later, came back to the same main theme, a series of long, wistful notes, slowly ascending into pitches too high and keen for human ears, then whispering away, lost in the quiet breathing of the water. Nita had never heard that main theme before, but she recognized it instantly from her reading and her wizard's sense of the sea. It was the loss, gain, sorrow motif that ran all through the Song of the 12, and what she heard now, attenuated by distance but otherwise clear, was the sound of its singers, tuning up for the performance in which that mournful phrase would become not just a motif, but a reality. "Kit," Nita said with a shiver, "that's a lot more than 10 whales. Who were all those other voices?" He bubbled, a shrug. "Let's find out." She whistled agreement and struck off after Kit, due west, away from the south shore of the island, and out across the Atlantic to Ambrose shipping approaches once more. Song echoed more and more loudly in the sunlit shallows through which they swam, but underneath them, Nita and Kit were very aware of the depths from which no echo returned, the abyss of Hudson Canyon, far below them, waiting. "This is it," Kit said at last, practically in Nita's ear, as they came to the fringes of the area Cerie's instructions had mentioned. 15 miles east-northeast of Barnegat, New Jersey, right over the remains of an old sunken tanker 6 fathoms down in the water. And floating, soaring, or slowly fluking through the diffuse green-golden radiance of the water were the whales. Nita had to gulp once to find her composure. Hundreds of whales had gathered and were milling about, whales of every kind. Minke whales, sei whales, sperm whales, dolphins of more kinds than she knew existed, in a profusion of shapes and colors flashing through the water. Several blues, grave-voiced, gliding with huge, slow grace. Fin whales, hardly smaller than the blues. Bowhead whales and pygmy rights and humpbacks, many of them. Gray whales and pygmy sperms and narwhals with their long, single-spiral teeth like unicorn horns. Belugas and killers and scamperdowns and bottle-nosed whales. "Kit," Nita sang, faint-voiced. "Cerie didn't tell me there were going to be people here." "Me either. I guess spectators at the rehearsal are so common, she forgot." Kit sounded unconcerned. "Easy for you," Nita thought. "You like crowds." She sang a few notes of sonar, trying nervously to hear some familiar shape. One shape, at least, Nita recognized, accompanied by the slow, calm, downscaling note of the blue, as a rune passed by, a gold-tinged shadow in the background of greenness and the confusion of bodies. And there was Hotshot's high chatter, some ways off, accompanied by several other dolphin voices very like his, members of his pod. Stillness swept over the spectators as she approached with Kit, and they recognized who she was. And a single note began to go up from them, starting at the fringes of the circle, working its way inward to the celebrants, until she heard even Arun's giant voice taking it up. One note, held in every range from the dolphin's dog-whistle trilling to the water-shaking thunder of the blues. One thought, one concept in the speech, trumpeting through the water with such force that Nita began to shake at the sound of it. Praise. They knew she was the silent one. They knew what she was going to do for them. They were thanking her. Stunned, Nita forgot to swim, just drifted there in painful joy. From behind, as the note slowly ebbed away, Kit nudged her. "Get the lead out, Neats," he sang, just for her hearing. "You're the star of this show, so start acting like it. Go in there and let them know you're here." She swam slowly through the spectator whales into the clear water in the center of their great circle, where the celebrants were gathered. One by one, as she circled above the weed-covered remnant of the trawler, Nita quickly identified the whales she knew. Arun, yes, swimming off more or less by himself to tideward, singing his deep scrape of notes with the absent concentration of a perfectionist who has time to hunt perfection. Hotshot, doing barrel rolls near the surface and chattering through the quick, bright harmonies of some part of the Wanderer's song. Arenye, aloof from both Wanderer and Blue, running again and again over a phrase of the Grey Lord's song and paying no further attention to Nita after a quick glance. There were also 5 other whales whom Nita didn't know, exactly as Kit had pegged them. A beluga, dolphin-size but whale-shaped, lazing near the surface and singing some longing phrase from the Gazer's song. A pilot whale, long and slim and gray, silent for the moment, and looking at Nita with interest. A right whale, with its huge, strange, bent-out-of-shape baleen mouth, listening to the beluga. A killer whale, the sharp blacks and whites of its hide, a contrast to the grays and quiet mottlings of most of the others. And, thank heaven, Sri, swimming toward Nita from beside the killer. Nita had been shaken by the sight of the killer whales being one of a humpback's most persistent natural enemies. But just now her composure was so unraveled there wasn't much more damage that could be done to it. As Sri came up to greet her, Nita managed to sing in something like a calm voice, and as if she were actually in charge. "Well, we're late. Should we get started?" "Good idea," said Sri, brushing skin briefly and reassuringly with Nita. "Introductions first, though." "Yes, please." Sri led Nita off to the north, where several of the singers were working together. "We've been through the first part of the song already this morning," said Sri, "the name songs and so forth. I've heard you do yours, so there was no need for you to be here till late. We're up to the division now, the temptation part. These are the people singing the undecided group." "Hi, Hotshot," Nita sang as she and Sri soared into the heart of the group. The dolphin chattered a greeting back and busied himself with his singing again, continuing his spirals near the surface, above the heads of the right whale, and a whale whose song Nita hadn't heard on the way in, a Sowerby's beaked whale. She immediately suspected why she hadn't heard it. The whale, undoubtedly there to celebrate the foragers part, was busy eating, ripping up the long kelp and red weed stirring around the shattered deck plates of the wreck. It didn't even look up as she and Sri approached. The right whale was less preoccupied. It swam toward Nita and Sri at a slow pace that might have been either courtesy or caution. "Nit, this is Tikki," said Sri. Nita clicked his name back at him in greeting, swimming forward to brush skin politely with him. "He's singing the listener." Tikki rolled away from Nita and came about, looking at her curiously. When he spoke, his song revealed both great surprise and some unease. "Sri, this is a human." "Tikki," Nita said, wry-voiced, with a look at Sri, "are you going to be mad at me for things I haven't done, too?" The right whale looked at her with that cockeyed upward stare that rights have, their eyes being placed high in their flat-topped heads. "Oh," he said, sounding wry himself, "you've run afoul of a Renye, have you? No fear, Silent Lord. Hinit, was it? No fear." Tikki's song put her instantly at ease. It had an amiable and intelligent sound to it, the song of a mind that didn't tend toward blind animosities. "If you're going to do the sea such a service as you're doing, I could hardly do less than treat you with honor. For sea's sake, don't think Arenya is typical." "However," Tikki added, gazing down at the calmly feeding beaked whale, "some of us practically have to have a bite taken out of us to get us to start honoring and stop eating." He drifted down a fathom or so and bumped nose first into the beaked whale. "Roots! Heads up, you bottom grubber! Here comes the master shark!" "Huh? Where? Where?" The shocked song came drifting up from the bottom. The kelp was thrashed about by frantic fluking, and through it rose the beaked whale, its mouth full of weed, streamers of which trailed back and whipped around in all directions as the whale tried to tell where the shark was coming from. "Where? What? Oh," the beaked whale said after a moment, as the echoes from its initial excited squeaking came back and told it that the master shark was nowhere in the area. "Kee," it said slowly. "I'm going to get you for that." "Later. Meantime, here's Sri, and Hinit with her," said Tikki. "Hinit's singing the Silent Lord. Hinit, this is Roots." "Oh," said Roots. "Well met. Pleasure to sing with you. Would you excuse me?" She flipped her tail, politely enough, before Nita could sing a note, and a second later was head down in the kelp again, ripping it up faster than before, as if making up for lost time. Nita glanced with mild amusement at Cerie as Hotshot spiraled down to join them.